What's going on, everybody? Jacob here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. We just got done with the draft, and Donovan did a great job taking y'all through every single player the Dolphins drafted and signed as a undrafted free agent. And we're going to continue to make some content on that throughout this week. But here we are with just a current look at the Miami Dolphins depth chart. This is not going to be an exact 53 or an exact guess as to what it would be when the season starts. It's going to be a little bit of, I think these guys are going to make the team. A little bit of, I think at this time, this is where they rank. It's so impossible to get a good judge of guys, especially players you just brought in, until they go against each other in camp leading up to the season. And we're going to start off with the quarterback position. Again, this is not going to be a 53-man roster. This is not going to be I have no idea how many guys I picked. Going to be completely honest with you guys. But this is just, in my opinion, how I think the roster stacks up. And you see the quarterbacks here. This is the easiest one. Tua, Mike White, Skylar Thompson. It's going to be those three. Got in Blackman as an undrafted free agent. I think we brought in somebody else. Those guys, maybe they compete. Maybe they show some promise. Maybe they show something to earn them a spot on the practice squad. But I do believe the Dolphins will keep these three guys on the roster. Now, as we go throughout the rest of this, again, it's not going to be an exact science. It's not going to be an exact 53. This is just where I think everybody lines up. And one rule that I want to set up before we go into this is to not fall in love with undrafted free agents. You take an undrafted free agent, and especially as fans, you want to see all the positives you can with these guys. There's a reason why they went undrafted. I think I have one or two undrafted players on this list entirely. So I just want to say that from the forefront. Don't expect a lot of that. But, of course, Tua, Mike White, Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson and Mike White, maybe there's a chance that Skylar becomes the actual backup. I wasn't the biggest fan with how he finished the season in that playoff game. He wasn't ever supposed to be there, but when he was, it wasn't promising. You want a backup to come in and carry on where the offense left off with a starter. So Tua, Mike White, Skylar Thompson. In the running back position, Devon Achane, the only addition to this backfield. I have him starting off as the third string running back behind Mostert, behind Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson and Mostert, when the two of them were on the field together, were a great tandem last year. The Dolphins had a really poor rushing attack the first half of the season, and then bringing in Jeff Wilson really changed the offense when he was just out there by himself. I think it was the game against the Texans. He had a really poor game, but the two of them together I really liked as a pairing. You'll notice that Myles Gaskin does not make this list. I got Savon Ahmed just over him on the basis we've seen him do some special teams work, and I think Achane and Gaskin are very comparable, as well as Ahmed. They're all very quick. They do most of their work in space outside the tackles. And Achane, using a pick on him, the dude's quick. I mean, he's Mostert, except a little bit shorter, a little bit less weight on his bones. So I still like Mostert as a starter, Jeff Wilson as the backup, and then Devon Achane. We'll see how he looks in camp. And Savon Ahmed running out the running backs group. Then fullback, Al Ingold. Simple as. He's under contract for one more season. We brought in Lovett, I believe. I think the guy's name is Lovett or whatever it is. I don't think he's going to compete. I don't think he's going to end up getting cut. So Ingold, easy pick for the fullback position. Did a good job last year. Wide receivers, the top two dogs, it is simple as Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Those guys' spots are secure without a doubt. And then there's going to be a serious competition for that number 3 wide receiver spot. As of now, I think it's going to go to Braxton Berrios. I think he works really well in the slot. Didn't have a great year last year, but nobody in that wide receiving core really did for the Jets. 3 different quarterbacks throughout the season, Zach Wilson being the main one of the bunch, and we know why. We know why the offense struggled, to say the least. I think Berrios comes in and does the work in the slots, and then it's an open field for whoever gets that wide receiver 4 position as well. Eric Ezukama, maybe it's a little bit more of hopeful thinking to think he's going to blossom into that wide receiver 4. We didn't see him on the field hardly at all last year. I believe he only dressed for the last game of the regular season, or maybe the last couple of games of the regular season. We didn't see a lot of him at all, but it is probably hopeful to see him. We used a 4th round pick, I believe it was, on him, and haven't seen much at all from him, but I'm kind of hopeful he will step up into wide receiver 4. And then 3 dudes that at one, probably 2 of them will not be on the team. I can see the Dolphins picking up another wide receiver in the next round of free agency where guys start getting picked up off the streets. Cedric Wilson, I'm not calling him Chosen Anderson. If I call him Chosen Anderson, it's an accident. I'm not even calling him Robert Anderson and River Craycraft. One or two of those guys, at least, I think are going to be off the team. I think Cedric Wilson and Robert Anderson are two guys that, Robert, we're bringing up off the street, did not impress last year whatsoever, and neither did Cedric Wilson. So you're looking at two dudes that don't have a lot on tape from the previous season that will strike any sort of confidence in you, and I really expected Cedric to be moved during the draft, possibly for a 6th or 7th round pick. Robbie, again, did not impress whatsoever last year, but they're two dudes that, when they're good, when they're at their best, they are definitely serviceable options, and at their best, both of them can compete for the wide receiver 3. But I think it's going to be they're that far down the pecking order. And River Craycraft, he had a few moments last year. He had a couple touchdowns. But, again, once you're getting that far down the order, those top two dogs, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I'm sure going to have the same exact production as they did last year, account for something stupid like 85% of the total receiving numbers on the entire team. I expect that to carry over unless there's some large shakeup. We bring in a better wide receiver 3. I expect it to be those two and then the rest. Starting off with the next group, the tight end position, it's not fun. You're bringing in Eric Sauber, a tight end who has less than 300 receiving yards in his entire career. Durham Smythe, who is without a doubt a blocking tight end. And then Elijah Higgins played receiver in college. He's made it clear he's transferring over to tight end. That's what he was drafted as. That's what he was listed as on the ESPN draft ticker, that he is a tight end. So I expect him to play tight end like he says he's going to play. It's not a pretty group. It's as simple as, you're not going to get a lot of production. Maybe out of those 3 guys, you get 5 total touchdowns, maybe 6 if you're fortunate. I don't expect a lot out of them. Best case scenario, Elijah Higgins, from the film that I've seen from him at Stanford, athletic body, not the fastest, but definitely has enough of speed to him. Yeah, he's more of a wide receiver. So upside of Darren Waller, hopefully, maybe those 3 guys. Durham Smythe does a job, so I'm not gonna hate on Durham Smythe because he's not expected to be a receiving tight end. He's very much a blocking tight end, and that's the role he fulfills. So Eric Sauber, Durham Smythe, Elijah Higgins. Moving on to the offensive line, got both of those here for you. The tackles, Teron Armstead, the only one that I feel great about. The only one, because behind him is Austin Jackson, who can't stay healthy. When he is on the field, he isn't the greatest to begin with. Robert Jones filled in at right tackle last year, was okay at best. Jerron Christian, Kendall Lamb. Jerron Christian bring over in free agency. Kendall Lamb was on the team last year. Again, not much of an impact. And guard/center, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Dan Feeney, Liam Eichenberg, and there's one dude I forgot on this list. Lester Cotton comes over from the Raiders. I said guard/center, loop them all in together because officially speaking, we do not have a single center on the roster. Connor Williams played center last year, but nobody is actually listed as center on the roster. They're all either tackles or guards. I know Connor Williams is going to play center, but he's still listed as a guard officially on the roster. Robert Hunt is definitely going to have that right guard position down. Then it's between Dan Feeney, Liam Eichenberg, and the other guy that I forgot his name, competing for that last guard position. The defense is going to be fun this year. Big change. Vic Fangio's brought in. We've seen some additions to the defense, which was the biggest position of need, the biggest positions of need outside of offensive line. We're on the defensive side of the ball, shore up the secondary, bring in a middle linebacker, and they've done that. And the group that has mostly stayed the same is the interior defensive line, which is led by Christian Wilkins. At this time, he is still not given an extension. Cross your fingers that happens sometime soon, because if that goes into the offseason, you don't want a Lamar Jackson situation. Although it's an interior defensive lineman, it's not a quarterback. You don't want that hovering around the team as the season goes on. But he is clearly our best defensive player coming from last season, and I only expect the same. Zach Zeeler, Raekwon Davis, they're 2A, 2B. Raekwon stays healthy. He could jump Zeeler. Second-round pick when he came out. Massive dude. Zach Zeeler, also in a contract year, so we're interested to see how his season plays out because he's going to be fighting for that money. And then one of the undrafted free agents I have is Brandon Pillai. Big body, 6'4", 6'5", 310 pounds, I believe he is. There's not a lot of depth on the interior defensive line, so I think he is somebody that certainly can make the team and add depth there at that position. Outside linebacking crew and the middle linebacking crew, Jalen Phillips, I was meandering between those top three for outside linebacker slash edge position. And I was debating, tossing up between the three of them, who is my true number one for outside linebacker. I do think that's Jalen Phillips. I think Jalen Phillips, we've seen the progression from year 1 to year 2, and I can only expect that to continue from year 2 to year 3. He's athletic. He was really raw when he came in. His pass coverage is still pretty bad, but you can say that about everybody in the outside linebacking crew. That's not really what they're expected to do. The quarterback pressures, amount of time he was just in the backfield. It was a story of our entire edge crew, how they could get near the quarterback, couldn't quite finish. Jalen Phillips in his third year, this is the year that you really hope he blossoms and balls out. Followed by Bradley Chubb, the guy you gave up a first-round pick for. Paired him back with Vic Fangio. Had his best work under Vic Fangio. Didn't do a lot when he came over last year. Hasn't quite lived up to that first-round pick, and then the contract we gave him on top of that. But with what you gave up and the money that you're giving him, you have to expect he's going to be used a lot. Manuel Ogbah was actually somebody I was at a dark horse expectation for him to be traded when you have those two top guys, Jalen Phillips on his rookie contract and Bradley Chubb, quite the opposite, who you just gave up a first-round pick for and then paid $20 million a year for. Manuel Ogbah got hurt last year, had a season-ending injury, was productive, not quite as productive as previous seasons when he was in there. I do not mind us keeping him if the contract works out and the salary cap works out and everything's fine. I do not mind us keeping him. Just to me, he was a guy that I could have seen got moved on from. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, Malik Reed. I was actually surprised that we were able to keep Andrew Van Ginkel. It seemed for a long time that he was going to be moving to the Patriots. That doesn't happen. You're able to retain him. And Malik Reed, you bring him in from the Broncos. Broncos or Steelers, I forget which was his last stop. I think it was the Steelers. Just the last guy in the group. Could be a cut candidate, or he could impress and jump over Andrew Van Ginkel. Followed by the interior linebackers. I actually have David Long right now as my linebacker 1. I've seen some film of him, of his pass coverage skills, and that is something we desperately need from the linebacking core, because we haven't seen it with Jerome Baker, with Duke Riley, previously Landon Roberts. We did not see let alone elite, good, didn't even see a good middle linebacker who was able to drop back in coverage. We saw that from David Long in his time with the Titans, and need that to continue here with the Dolphins. I have him as my middle linebacker 1, followed by Jerome Baker. I do have Channing Tindall jumping Duke Riley, and again, kind of like Eric Ezukama. Is it hopeful? Yes, because same situation. We did not get to see a lot of Channing Tindall. As the season went on, slightly saw an increase in workload, but it was not a lot. It was certainly not a lot, especially from a third-round pick. Hopefully, he can blossom into that guy. There's a lot of guys that are hopefuls. There's a lot of younger guys that, they're not a sure thing yet. Even with Jalen Phillips, I wouldn't go as far to say as Jalen Phillips is a sure thing right now. He is certainly looking like he is moving towards that direction, but right now I can't go as far to say Jalen Phillips is a sure thing to be our edge rusher of the future. Channing Tindall, we barely even saw him at all last season. So him, Eric Ezukama, it's hopeful. And then Duke Riley, brought him back, probably a cut candidate. Somebody that I'd have listed as a cut candidate. He's my 4th option in the middle linebacking crew. It is what it is. Cornerback. Keon Crossan, I believe he was by far our best corner last year. He was locked up. He never got burnt. Anyways, Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, top 2, 1A, 1B. Whoever is, quote-unquote, the cornerback 1. I do not care. I feel great about our cornerback crew. They were decimated by injuries last season, and that cannot happen again. And we've seen with the addition of Cam Smith, who I have listed as our cornerback 5, that shows you the depth that we do have. But that acquisition, using one of the few picks we have at corner, shows that you cannot have too much corners. This is a passing league. This is a quarterback league. And if you do not have enough power to line up against the other team's receiving core, you're screwed. And we saw that. We saw that with the defense last year. The defensive line was doing its job, but it was not able to get to the quarterback because Keon Crossan, guys like him, Bethel, they were not able to stick to their men. And we saw them get burnt time and time again. And that really put a cap on the defense for the Dolphins last season. If this core can just stay healthy enough, I'm talking just healthy enough. You never expect to get through a full season where every single guy in that group stays completely healthy. But if you can just stay healthy enough, that is an incredible cornerback crew. Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, Cater Kahoot jumping Nick Needham on the basis of Needham is coming back from an Achilles injury. Achilles injuries are rough, especially playing that slot corner where you need to be able to move side to side quickly. It's not as much of a vertical game. You need to be able to move from sideline to sideline quickly, that quick twitch, change of direction. I'm sure it's going to be impacted coming back from an Achilles injury. He's young, so he has the ability to come back from it, and I don't think it's going to cost him his spot on the team. But it is a tall task to come back your first season off an Achilles injury and be the same guy you were pre-injury. And Cater Kahu, he played very well last year on a bad defense. He was a bright spot, another undrafted free agent. So I do expect some undrafted free agents to sneak their way into this team, maybe practice squad, and then eventually work their way up to the starting 53. But he was a bright spot on a gloomy defense last year, and I think he earned that spot at 3. Cam Smith, use a second-round pick on him, whatever it was, second-round pick. You expect him to come in and do a job from day one. I've seen some tape from him. Looks good. He's athletic. He's quick. He's got decent hands. Trillwell, it was really a bummer to see him go down in preseason last year, and I hope he's been able to train just as hard as I'm hopeful he's gotten back to at least close to 100% to the point he's training and can be back with the team starting as soon as that mini camp opens up. And the Higbenogany, it's his last chance. It really is his last chance. He may have already wasted his chance. He might be done. He might never play another snap in the regular season for the Dolphins again. But this is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the last chance for Noah Higbenogany. He's the last corner that makes the cut, and we'll just see how that goes. Safety position, Javon Hall and Brandon Jones are going to be the duo. Now, is Brandon Jones and Deshaun Elliott, who's better between the two? I don't believe they really do the same things. Brandon Jones, he wears on his chin the fact that he's blitz boy. He will get into the backfield. He's a heavy hitting safety, not a great coverage safety, but the job he does it extremely well. And especially when you pair that with Javon Holland, who is an excellent coverage safety. The secondary as a whole last year did not have a good season, and Javon had his moments where you expected better from him, but you can say that about the entire secondary that was healthy. Xavier Howard didn't have a great year. Javon Holland didn't have a great year. But you look what's around them. They're trying to pick up the slack for where they're just missing guys. And it did affect the defense, and it did affect those two specifically. But Holland is definitely still the best safety on this team, followed by Brandon Jones. Bringing in Deshaun Elliott from the Lions is just a good depth pickup. And then Verone McKinley, college teammate with Javon Holland, another cut candidate. But I think having 4 safeties ready to go is the right way to go. And then just the special teams unit. There's nobody else on the roster to compete. So it's going to be Jason Sanders, Jake Bailey, and Blake Ferguson to round that out. That is my depth chart for the Dolphins as of now. Again, that's not 53 dudes. I didn't count it. It could be 52. It could be 62. I didn't count it. I just wrote it down. Did I miss anybody? Let me know. Is there anybody, especially undrafted free agents, that you guys are very passionate about that you think will make the cut? Did I get anything wrong? Let me know down below. Jacob here from Miami Dolphins Syndicate. Y'all haven't seen a lot of me recently. I'm graduating college this Thursday. I've been on the road a lot. I've been to so many different cities I've been to Vegas, Houston, New York, all in the past month and a half with the school. And so it's been a very busy time for me, wrapping out with school, doing all that traveling. But I do expect to be more of a mainstay here on this channel. Donovan's done a great job carrying the way, especially through the entire draft process. So appreciate all y'all. We know we got like 100 subscribers during during the draft, so we appreciate all y'all that have come on, join the bandwagon. If you haven't done so far, make sure to drop a subscribe down there. Click that subscribe button, like, comment, let me know what you think. If you have any video ideas, as we are approaching the summer, it is going to be a bit difficult because not a lot goes on, but we will be here for any sort of news with the Miami Dolphins. Again, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.